essential travel to PEI by bridge, by plane, and by ferry. Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight on Compass. There are no new cases of COVID-19 on PEI today. In fact, the island has not reported a new case since April 8th, and that's when 3 new cases were reported. But health officials aren't ready to ease up on restrictions just yet. Brian Higgins joins me live in studio tonight with more. So Brian, Dr. Morrison was asked today about when might be the time to look at lifting some of the public health measures. What did she say?
Yeah, Louise, this is because 23 of the 25 cases to date are now recovered. That means only 2 people are currently suffering from COVID-19 on PEI. There's been no deaths, no hospitalizations. So today the conversation did begin to turn a little bit towards reopening things. Now, the health officer specifically mentioned that recreational fishing season that's been delayed caused some controversy this weekend. She also alluded to more essential things such as going to work, going to school. She did not say what date things might reopen, but let's take a listen to what she did say.
And we are regularly reviewing not only the decision around recreational fishing in our province, and we certainly will happily reconsider a delayed start date when it is safe to do so. However, we do know that the length of time it will take is heavily influenced by our adherence to these public health measures and what happens, of course, to the virus and the pandemic around the world and in this country.
And of course, it's what we've been doing so far, Louise, the sacrifices we've been making, what we're not doing, that is keeping the numbers where they are. And the health officer says what we need to do right now is keep doing that.
Now, Brian, she also addressed essential versus non-essential travel to PEI. There's been lots of questions about that and potential changes on the horizon.
Yeah. Over the weekend, they say that 8 cars were turned away at the Confederation Bridge, the travel deemed non-essential. Now, they're also talking about stepping up screening procedures at the bridge and at the airport. That's to do a better job of defining what is an essential traveler, what is a non-essential traveler. And we also know that they're taking numbers, taking names, and phoning people to make sure that they are self-isolated after they have been let into the province. Today, the health officer said some people aren't picking up those calls, and so that they can be expecting a knock on the door from law enforcement. And of course, May 1st, we saw the picture of the ferry there. May 1st is ferry season, so that's another port of entry at Wood Islands, and they're talking about stepping up screening procedures there as well.
So Brian, there are lots of concerns and questions about the safety of long-term care homes after outbreaks in other parts of the country. How worried is Dr. Morrison about island facilities?
Yeah, in recent days, we've heard about those terrible outbreaks in Ontario, Quebec, where dozens of people have died individually in each of those facilities. The health officer was asked about that today. She said that would be a complete game changer here on this island, radically change our numbers. She says that's why the conversation is ongoing with the government seniors' homes, with private seniors' homes, about continuing the no visitor policy, continuing to have a discussion about using that personal protective equipment we hear so much about. And because part-time staff might work in more than one facility, they're now starting to talk about perhaps limiting the movement of staff between facilities.
Thank you so much for the update tonight, Brian. That is our Brian Higgins reporting live in studio. The federal government announced $50 million today to help farmers and fish processors who are bringing in temporary foreign workers during the pandemic. Now, under this program, employers are eligible for $1,500 per foreign worker to help cover the costs of complying with the mandatory 2-week quarantine when they come to Canada. Employers must give employees a place to stay during self-isolation and pay the workers during that 14-day period. The province has recruited nearly 170 healthcare workers to work during the COVID-19 pandemic. That number includes 23 doctors, 54 registered nurses, 16 licensed practical nurses, and a variety of other specialists. And those include dozens of retired workers, along with some from out of province and some who have been working in private settings and have volunteered to work with Health PEI during this time. The province has also recruited 17 new healthcare cleaners and 91 volunteers. And Collin College in Charlottetown is preparing to open some of its residence rooms to healthcare workers starting this week. Officials with the college say they've been working with Health PEI and the Emergency Measures Organization and plan to have 40 rooms ready by Friday. They will be offered to healthcare providers free of charge. The college says at this point it's unclear when workers might start staying there. For those on the front lines, a mask is one way to protect themselves from COVID-19, but masks are in high demand right across the country. So a group of Islanders is getting out needles and thread to help out here. Travis Kington has that story.
Today, members of PEI's Women's Institute were handing out mask kits to their members. Inside, there were instructions and material on how to sew a mask that can prevent COVID-19. They're making them for frontline care workers at long-term care facilities on the island. A company that runs 3 long-term care facilities wants all of its frontline workers to have 2 reusable masks and says while it's not short on protective equipment today, this is a precautionary measure for when its supply does run low. The masks will be made from cotton and have a marine-grade metal band that helps them form to the face. The PEI Women's Institute says its members have a history of helping out when times are tough.
During World War II, the branches actually suspended their activity and launched into different types of production, which included mitts and gloves and socks for soldiers overseas. So this is not a surprise. And based on all the good works that the members do across the island, this is just an extension, and they're a very humble group.
The Institute contacted Katie Beck, founder of Mask Aid PEI, for the design. Her group has been making masks for about 2 weeks now for friends and family, and talked with Health PEI about how to offer the best protection. But these cloth masks aren't meant to replace a surgical or N95 mask.
The reality is these are unproven. So these cloth masks are never to replace the proper PPE. This is always worst case scenario.
The kits handed out today had materials for 10 or 25 masks in them, and now about 1,000 members of the PEI Women's Institute are sewing them across the island, and hope by the end of the week they can hand out 500 to long-term care facilities here on PEI. Travis Kingdon, CBC News, Charlottetown.
Well, the mild temperatures were nice, but the showers, the clouds, not so much. A very different day than what we enjoyed for Easter Sunday. We do have some steadier rain on the way tonight, heavy at times, and we are looking at some very gusty winds that will work across PEI, mostly through the overnight hours. I'll be back with those details, plus we'll take a look at the week ahead. That's coming up with your full forecast a little later on Compass.
PEI justice officials are looking for 2 men who escaped from the Provincial Correctional Centre last night. They're looking for 31-year-old Murray Todd. Officials describe him as about 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighing 150 pounds, and also 22-year-old Brandon Quinn. He's around 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighing in at about 135 pounds, and has burn scars on both hands. Officials say they escaped late last night. Both were serving time for non-violent offenses, and police say there is no danger to the public at this point. An investigation has started at the Correctional Centre to determine how the escape was possible, and anyone with information on their whereabouts is asked to call 911. Many island students are now back in school without ever having to leave home. Home learning began in earnest a week ago here on PEI. It's a big change for everyone, students, teachers, and parents. Well, Doug Doyle is the principal at Summerside Intermediate School and spoke to me recently about how that first week went.
This week has been an interesting one for families, of course, also educators, schools, and we're just in the realm right now of doing our best to support families and connect with them as we move forward.
Now, the public school branch said, and the government said, this is really teacher driven. So how are teachers ensuring, really a level playing field here, or can they even do that?
Well, that's a tough task, and we're in order to provide a level playing field, we are staying away from what we call summative assessments. So summative assessments would be what you would normally have in a classroom where everybody has equal opportunity at learning and equal opportunity at technology, and therefore we would give a grade to it. What we're doing now is home learning based, called formative assessments, where we would basically giving feedback to students on how they're doing with their home-based learning.
So let's talk about some of the biggest challenges here from the different perspectives. So let's start from the perspective of a teacher, the biggest challenge for teachers right now.
Teachers are parents as well, a lot of them, and they are juggling their work life, which is hectic. They're juggling now trying to be home-based teachers themselves to their own students and children. But they're also juggling that they're used to being educators in front of their students, in front of a classroom. They had that connection, personal connection. So we've been working really hard to make connections with our SIS community. But it's been difficult because, as you mentioned, not everybody is on the same level playing field when they're doing a home-based learning.
Let's talk about some of the challenges for parents and students. What about students who just can't seem to find the motivation to learn from home?
Well, isn't that interesting? Because sometimes even in the classroom, students don't have the motivation to learn all the time. Again, those are stages and hurdles we are going to address soon and do our best to get to. But I think, Louise, at this point in time, and it's hard for educators who are always wanting to move forward. We want to challenge ourselves. We want to challenge our students. We need to go slow and steady. We need to make sure that home life comes first. Families who are in a tough time right now, whether it's not working or whether it's essential workers who are out of the home and their children are struggling with the lessons. Our goal right now is to make sure that they are supported as best we can.
Some students and parents are worried about the curriculum. So is that followed during home learning? Sort of you think about the curriculum and being prepared for the next year. So is that something that teachers are trying to focus on?
Well, that's a great question, Louise. We right now are focusing on our 4 core subjects, which is of course math, literacy, social studies, and science. In those core subjects, we have what are called foundational learnings, and the word foundation, of course, means the basis of all other learnings. We are not moving forward in our learnings right now because basically we don't consider this the same as school. It doesn't replace having a teacher in front of you. So we're basically reviewing some of our foundational learnings in our math and in our literacy, and then providing feedback as best we can through technology.
How worried are you then about what next year will look like in terms of where students' grade levels are at? How will you address any gaps in learning?
Well, we've been working very closely with the public schools branch and with the Department of Education, and we've been talking about making our curriculum smaller and condensed right now in order to move forward as best we can. So they are working on plans when we do. Now, maybe we'll be back on May 11th. Maybe we won't be back until September. That one is out of my hands. But I am confident that when we arrive back in September, since we've been reviewing our foundational outcomes, that we will be able to move forward and confident that students will get back on track. And we'll have things in place for students who need a little extra support as well.
Doug Doyle, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Louise. Take care.
Well, officials from the Atlantic Police Academy are adapting their teaching styles so cadets can graduate on time. Policing students were supposed to return to classes back in March, but because of COVID-19 measures, they were told to stay home. So instructors moved the material online. The Academy's executive director says the goal is to have students graduate in August. More in-person sessions over evenings and weekends will be added in late June. Sales at PEI cannabis stores are down by as much as 70%. Unlike liquor stores, though, the province says it has no plans to reopen the retail cannabis stores right now. Wayne Thibodeau has the details.
PEI cannabis stores closed on March 19th, the same time as the island's liquor stores. And while the province has reopened some island liquor stores, the island's 4 cannabis stores remain closed. And that has left some questioning why.
Well, it just makes me wonder why liquor stores would be allowed to remain open as opposed to the cannabis stores when obviously there are medicinal purposes to cannabis.
More Islanders are choosing to buy online, but overall sales are down about 70%. PEI Cannabis has made more products available online, waived shipping fees, and it's offering phone support to help customers navigate the website. It's also made changes at the stores for when they do get the green light to reopen.
We've installed plexiglass barriers. We've introduced measures within the store that I guess would limit the amount of retail exploration customers would be able to do. We're constantly in contact with security personnel and have a plan in place, an operational plan in place that would see reduced hours and restricted customers in stores.
A spokesperson for the province said they realize it may not be convenient for some to buy cannabis online, but they still have no plans to reopen the retail stores anytime soon. Wayne Thibodeau, CBC News, Charlottetown.
An Island beef processing plant is putting extra precautions in place to ensure its employees stay healthy during COVID-19. Atlantic Beef Products is taking the temperatures of more than 150 employees every day, twice a day.
If you have a virus, and the way COVID-19, I understand, acts in the body is that it very often sets a temperature, as it doesn't always, but it seems to be one of the leading indicators. And the industry, as a group across the country, working with health professionals, have determined that it's quite sensible for us to be doing these temperature checks as an initial indication for health.
Employees are also following physical distancing in the building, and access to the building is restricted to employees only. Thousands of Islanders lined up in their vehicles for free potatoes, cheese, and milk on Saturday. It was during the Island Producers Helping Islanders campaign. Around 3,000 10-pound bags of potatoes, blocks of cheese, and cartons of milk were handed out. They set up 2 locations, one in Summerside and the other in Charlottetown. Government officials say they are looking to expand the program to other locations across the province this week. And as we go to break, a live look outside our Charlottetown studio tonight on this Monday night. Jay's full forecast is coming up right after this break. Stay with us. Well, Jay's here now on this Easter Monday. Happy Easter to you, Jay, and your family. Happy Easter to everyone out there tonight. We're in for a bit of a windy, rainy spell, right?
Yes, strong winds and I wouldn't say heavy rain. We're avoiding the heaviest of the rain ahead tonight. And happy Easter to you as well, and to everybody at work that I haven't seen in a few weeks in person. Anyway, looking forward to that time again. But we are looking at, I think, wind versus the rain will be the bigger story, and mostly during the overnight hours tonight. Let's take a look at some advisories that are in effect as we look across at your warnings across all 3 maritime provinces. None for PEI, but you can see heaviest of that rain with that widespread rainfall warning back into New Brunswick. That's where local amounts could exceed 50 millimeters of rain. But you can also see some wind warnings in place for the Fundy Coast, southern Nova Scotia, Cape Breton. None for PEI, but that does not mean we're avoiding the wind. We have wind warnings in areas all around us. We're just likely to see most areas with gusts below the warning criteria. I do think a few exposed areas could see some gusts to about 90 km. But most areas 50 to 80 plus kilometers per hour, and predominantly after midnight, easing into the early morning hours tomorrow. Still pretty gusty in the morning, 30 to 60 km winds out of the southwest, but those strong 50 to 80 km southwest winds through the overnight hours tonight will be the strongest. You can see over the last few hours in satellite and radar imagery, we have that heavy rain already working into New Brunswick. The track of this system should keep the heaviest of the rain to our west. So we will be looking at amounts generally from 10 to 15 millimeters through the overnight hours tonight, tapering off to showers and then clearing out tomorrow morning. We'll see a return to at least some sunshine, likely a mix of sun and cloud into the afternoon. Track of the system. This is a very, very powerful low pressure center. Luckily, it's well to our west, actually just south and east of James Bay, and the track is going to keep it well to our west. I've left the isobars, those white lines on the weather map. They're bunched in close together. That indicates that strong southerly wind once we get late this evening and into the overnight hours, 50 to gusting over 80 kilometers per hour possible. As we get into tomorrow morning, you can see them start to spread apart a little bit. This will be more of a southwest wind in the morning, 30 to near 60 kilometers per hour, then a mix of sun and cloud with westerly winds, 20 to 40 km, and easing through the afternoon. So some good news, at least on that front. Some local outages possible. Certainly south-facing shorelines in particular could see some elevated water levels, rough sea conditions, but we should be avoiding the worst of the rain and looking to avoid at least the strongest of those winds. You can see just a few isolated showers and some clouds returning for Wednesday. Be looking forward to at least a bit of afternoon sunshine, though, for your Tuesday. Wet weather with temperatures between 7 and 8 degrees tonight over western PEI, between 7 and 10 tomorrow, and it could be even cooler for areas immediately downwind of the water. Central, eastern PEI, again, that steady rain, the strongest winds tonight. The rain tapers off, the winds ease with some sun returning, and temperatures as warm as 13 degrees tomorrow, but could be into the mid-single digits for a few areas immediately downwind of the water. There's a look at the next 7 days, and you can see those temperatures getting back below seasonal as we get towards the end of the week as well. Louise?
All right, thanks so much, Jay. We'll see you again tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And here's our photo of the day. This is from Andrea Gunson, early Sunday morning in Murray Harbor. Beautiful spot. Beautiful shot. Thank you so much. You know we like to put your photos on Compass. Send them to us by email, or you can tag us on social media. More Compass after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Late last month, the Prime Minister used his daily news conference to speak directly to kids. And Winnipeg dad and his two sons thought that was pretty cool, so they grabbed their Lego and made something even cooler. Take a look.
I want to thank you all for helping us slow the spread of COVID-19. And to all the kids out there, all of a sudden you've heard you can't go on play dates or have sleepovers. Your playgrounds and schools have closed, and your March break was certainly different than what you'd hoped for. The doctors and scientists.
Tyler Walsh says he made this stop-action Lego video. He and his sons built everything, then moved it little by little, taking pictures all the way. Now their creation has gone viral. Even the Lego company retweeted it. It's pretty remarkable. Have you ever tried to do stop-motion videos? It takes a lot of work. We do so appreciate you joining us tonight for Compass. You can always log on to cbc.ca/PEI for more news from our province 24 hours a day. Vachi Kapelos is up next with Power and Politics, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 6. Good night, PEI.